Sophie Bennett stood at the SeaTac check-in counter, clutching her boarding pass, ready to jet off to New York for a screenwriting workshop. Her shot at a dream sparked by her fiancé, Ethan Caldwell, a young, reclusive billionaire who shunned the spotlight. She wasn't fazed by the flight or the workshop. She'd been loved by someone who'd weathered fiercer storms. What she didn't see coming was trouble before even boarding. Her hoodie hung loose, her worn backpack slung over one shoulder, not the sleek vibe of a typical business-class passenger. That's when Jessica Thompson, the gate agent, zeroed in on her. "This ticket yours, or did you lift it from someone who actually flies business?" Jessica's tone was sharp, slicing through the airport's buzz. Sophie handed over her ID and boarding pass without a flinch. She'd faced skeptics before. People who saw her engagement to Ethan and figured she was just a gold digger. Jessica snatched the documents, barely glancing before smirking. "Sophie Bennett, huh? Off to some fancy workshop thanks to your billionaire fiancé, Ethan Caldwell?" The jab was blatant. Sophie stayed cool, her voice even. "Yeah, exactly. It was true. Ethan had pushed her to chase this, even covered the ticket. He'd always told her to chase what set her soul on fire, just like he had with his ventures." Jessica let out a harsh laugh, loud enough to turn heads in the line. "Oh, come on. You expect me to believe that?" She leaned closer, eyes narrowing like she'd caught Sophie red-handed. "Something's off about you." Sophie frowned, hands steady. "It's my ticket. I'm clean." But Jessica wasn't having it. She signaled security, her voice spiking. "This one's trouble. Probably smuggling something. Maybe drugs." The accusation hit Sophie like a gut punch, but she held firm. She'd learned from Ethan how to stand tall when people tried to tear her down. Jessica hit a button under the counter, her smirk widening as two guards approached. "I'm just going to New York," Sophie said, calm but resolute. "Check the ticket. Call my fiancé if you have to." Jessica rolled her eyes. "Sure, sweetheart, I'll just dial up Ethan Caldwell and he'll swoop in to save you." The sarcasm was thick, but Sophie didn't take the bait. She knew Ethan would show if she called. He'd never leave her to face this alone. Still, she wanted to handle it herself. She wasn't some damsel needing a bailout. The guards closed in quick. Sophie's stomach knotted, not from fear but from the sheer unfairness. She'd done nothing wrong, yet here she was, pegged as a crook because she didn't match Jessica's image of business class. It wasn't about the ticket or ID, it was her look, her vibe. Too casual, too quiet, too easy to target. Ethan had warned her about this. People judging what they couldn't grasp. He'd faced it himself, investors doubting him early on because he didn't flaunt his wealth or play their games. "Step back," one guard barked, his hand near her backpack. Sophie held her ground. "I'm not breaking any rules. You've got no cause for this." Jessica jumped in, voice loud for the crowd. "Oh, I've got plenty. Quiet types like you, always hiding something." Sophie's jaw clenched. She felt eyes on her now. Passengers staring, some pulling out phones. She wasn't just a person anymore. She was a spectacle, all because Jessica couldn't fathom someone like her belonging in a seat Ethan had paid for. Sophie's mind flicked to her fiancé. He'd told her once, after a brutal business deal, "People see what they want, Soph. Don't let them define you." She took a breath, grounding herself. She wouldn't shout or plead, that wasn't her way, or his. But the unease deepened as the guards edged closer. She could call Ethan now, and he'd be here, no question. His calm would shut this down. Yet she hesitated. This was her fight for now. Still, as Jessica's accusations grew louder and the guards reached for her bag, Sophie wondered if she'd misjudged how far this could spiral. The guards were on her fast. Daniel Harris and Thomas Wright, names Sophie seared into her memory, moved like they'd already convicted her. "Hands off the bag," Daniel snapped, yanking her backpack before she could react. She stumbled, catching herself against the counter as Thomas ripped the zipper open. Her stuff spilled out, her notebook of script ideas, a few pens, a crumpled granola bar. Then came the silver necklace, a gift from her late mother, worn daily until cancer claimed her. It hit the floor with a faint clink and broke in two. Sophie's breath hitched. She dropped to her knees, reaching for it, voice trembling. "That's my mom's, please don't." Daniel didn't glance her way. "Cheap junk," he muttered, nudging it aside with his boot like it was nothing. Sophie's fingers shook as she gathered the pieces. That necklace wasn't junk. It was all she had of her mother, the woman who'd taught her to push through when the world turned harsh. She clutched the fragments, chest tight, as Jessica's voice cut through. "She claims her fiancé is Ethan Caldwell," Jessica sneered, loud for the crowd. "But I say she stole that ticket. Probably a liar and a thief." Heads turned. Bones came up, filming every moment. Sophie wasn't a person to them, she was a show, a criminal in their eyes, just because she didn't look the part. She stood slowly, necklace pieces pressed into her palm. "I didn't steal anything," she said, low but steady. "My fiancé bought this ticket. Call him, if you don't believe me." Thomas snorted, rummaging through her bag like he'd find proof of her lies. "Yeah, right. Ethan Caldwell, the billionaire, just happens to be your fiancé?" The sarcasm stung, but Daniel's cold glare hit harder. "Quiet, or we'll make this worse," he warned, tossing her notebook aside. Sophie's hands balled into fists. She wasn't scared, not yet, but the injustice burned. They didn't care about the truth. They saw a woman in a hoodie and decided she didn't belong. The crowd grew, whispers buzzing like static. Some pointed, others filmed, their faces a mix of curiosity and judgment. Sophie felt the weight, their eyes, the guards' hands, Jessica's smug grin. This wasn't just about a ticket anymore. It was about being dismissed, torn apart, because she didn't fit their mold. Ethan's voice echoed in her head. "People will try to break you, Soph. Don't let them." He'd said it after a rival tried to smear him early in his career. She wanted to channel that strength, but the necklace in her hand felt heavier than ever. Jessica leaned over the counter, arms crossed. "I've seen your type. Too quiet, too sneaky. What's in the bag?" "Drugs." The word landed like a fist. Sophie's eyes flashed. "You're wrong. I'm not hiding anything." But Jessica kept going, nodding at the guards. "Check it all. She's not fooling me." Daniel grabbed the bag again, dumping out socks, a water bottle, a folded script she'd been drafting, every piece of her life scattered for strangers to gawk at. Thomas held up the broken necklace, smirking. "This supposed to mean something?" Sophie's throat tightened. "It's all I've got left of her," she whispered. He shrugged and dropped it back on the pile. Sophie's heart pounded, anger mixing with a raw ache. She'd lost her mom years ago, watched her fade while holding her hand through it all. That necklace was a promise, to keep going, to make something of herself like her mom always believed. Now it was broken, and these people didn't care. They saw a target, not a person. She pulled her phone from her pocket, fingers shaky but sure, and dialed Ethan. He answered instantly. "Soph, you good?" His voice was steady, warm, her anchor. "I'm fine," she lied, then softened. "But if you're nearby..." He didn't pause. "I'm coming. Hang on." The call ended as Daniel snatched her phone. "No calls till we're done," he barked, tossing it onto the counter. Sophie stared at it, then at him, her calm fraying. "You've got no right," she said, voice rising. Jessica laughed. "Oh, we've got every right. You're not boarding till we say so." The crowd's murmurs grew, phones still rolling. Sophie's face burned, not from shame, but from being stripped bare in front of strangers. She wasn't a thief or a smuggler. She was Ethan Caldwell's fiancé, fighting to hold on to who she was while they tried to erase her. She thought of Ethan, his quiet strength, how he'd face down doubters without raising his voice. He'd be here soon, she knew it. He'd never let her fall like this. But for now, she was alone, surrounded by people who judged her guilty. The necklace pieces cut into her palm, a sharp reminder of what she'd lost, and what she wouldn't let them take. Her mom's courage, Ethan's belief in her. It was still there, even if they couldn't see it. Sophie straightened, meeting Daniel's glare. "You're making a mistake," she said, voice steady now. "And you'll see that soon." Sophie's feet slid as Daniel yanked her from the counter, his grip bruising her arm. "Let go," she snapped, twisting against him. "I didn't do anything," her voice cracked, not from fear but from the weight of being treated like this. Daniel leaned in, breath hot. "Shut it, or this gets worse." The threat hit hard, but Sophie's blood was up. She wasn't helpless. Ethan had taught her more than just how to dream. He'd shown her how to stand her ground. When Thomas lunged for her other arm, she moved fast, ducking under his reach and shoving him back. He stumbled, crashing into bins near the security line, the clatter echoing through the terminal. The crowd exploded. Gasps, shouts, a few cheers cutting through. Some clapped like it was entertainment, others backed off, wide-eyed. Sophie stood, chest heaving, the broken necklace clutched in her fist. She hadn't wanted to fight, but they'd pushed too far. Daniel recovered, face red with fury. "You're done," he growled, stepping toward her. Before he could grab her, a new voice broke through, sharp, commanding. "What's happening here?" Matthew Evans, the area manager, strode up. Tie askew, eyes flicking between Sophie and the guards. Jessica jumped in first. "She's violent," she said, pointing. "Probably hiding something. I knew she was trouble." Sophie shook her head, stepping forward despite Daniel's glare. "That's not true. I just want my flight. My fiancé can prove it all." She grabbed her phone. Daniel hadn't picked it up after tossing it, and opened Ethan's email. The confirmation was there, her name, the flight, the business class ticket he'd paid for. She held it out, hands steady despite her racing heart. "Look, it's real. Call him if you need to." Matthew took the phone, barely glancing before handing it back. "We can't verify this now," he said, tone flat. "Ticket's on hold until we sort it out." Sophie's stomach sank. "On hold? It's right there, his name, his payment. What more do you want?" Matthew crossed his arms, unmoved. "Procedures? Too many red flags. Your story, your behavior. You're not boarding." The words hit like a wall. She wasn't behaving anyway. She was defending herself. But to them, her fight was proof of guilt. Jessica smirked from behind the counter, arms folded like she'd won. Sophie's grip on the necklace tightened, the jagged edges biting her skin. This wasn't just unfair, it was personal. They were stripping her dignity, her name, everything Ethan had helped her build. She thought of Ethan, how he'd faced skeptics with quiet grit. He'd told her once after a rival tried to tank his startup that the world loved to doubt what didn't fit its boxes. She'd laughed then, but now she understood. They didn't believe her because she wasn't what they expected, some glossy trophy fiancé of a billionaire. She was just Sophie, and that made her a liar in their eyes. "You're wrong," she said, locking eyes with Matthew. "I'm not a thief. I'm not a criminal. My fiancé's coming, and he'll prove it." Matthew raised an eyebrow. "Sure he is. Step aside." Daniel grabbed her arm again, pulling her toward the check-in area's edge. She yanked free, voice rising. "Don't touch me! You've got no right!" The crowd shifted, phones still up, capturing every word. She felt their judgment, their whispers cutting into her. But she wouldn't break. Not here. Ethan's lessons kicked in. Keep your head up even when they're kicking you down. She'd seen him do it. Brush off insults, prove himself through action, not noise. She wanted that strength, but the ache in her chest grew. They'd broken her mom's necklace, trashed her stuff, and now they were stealing her chance to prove she was more than their assumptions. Matthew turned away, dismissing her. "Take her out," he said to Daniel, already walking off. Sophie's fists clenched. "You can't just—" She started, but Thomas cut her off, stepping close. "Move or we'll move you." Her pulse raced, anger overtaking the hurt. She wasn't powerless. She'd just shown she could fight back. But 4 hands against 1? That wasn't a fight she could win alone. Still, she stood tall, staring them down. "You're making a mistake," she said again, voice like steel, "and you'll regret it." The guards hesitated, thrown by her resolve. She wasn't screaming or crying, she was challenging them, and it didn't fit their script. The crowd's buzz grew, some muttering about that Caldwell fiancé. Sophie didn't care what they thought. This was about her honor, her bond with Ethan, his trust in her. He'd be here soon, she could feel it. He'd never let her face this cruelty alone. Until he arrived, she'd hold her own, even if it meant staring down every last one of them. She wasn't just fighting for a ticket, she was fighting for who she was. And no one was taking that. Sophie stood firm, the broken necklace cutting into her palm, her defiance the only thing keeping her upright as Daniel and Thomas loomed. The crowd's whispers swirled, phones still filming, but she didn't falter. She knew Ethan was coming, he'd promised, and then, like a quiet storm cutting through the chaos, he was there. Ethan Caldwell stepped into the SeaTac terminal, his dark jacket understated, a cap pulled low. The real him, not the billionaire myth. No flash, no entourage, just the man who'd never let her down. The crowd hushed. some recognizing the elusive tycoon, others drawn by the quiet power he carried. He moved straight to Sophie, ignoring the guards, the onlookers, everything but her. He dropped to one knee, voice soft but steady. "Soph, you okay?" Her throat tightened, eyes stinging as she nodded. She couldn't speak, not yet. Her strength was fraying, but seeing him patched it together. Ethan's gaze shifted, locking onto Matthew Evans, who'd frozen mid-step. "Who did this to my fiancé?" His tone wasn't loud, but it cut deep, each word laced with a protective edge that made the air heavy. Matthew stammered, hands twitching. "Sir, I'm so sorry. It was a misunderstanding." Ethan stood, towering without effort, and cut him off. "I don't want apologies. I want Sophie treated right." His calm wasn't weakness. It was steel, honed through years of proving himself to a world that doubted him too. Jessica's face paled, her smirk erased. Daniel and Thomas stepped back, shrinking under his stare. Sophie watched, her chest aching, not just from the fight, but from the relief of him being here, like always. Ethan pulled out his phone and a credit card, sliding them across the counter to Matthew. "Here's the proof. I bought her ticket. Email's there, my name, my payment." His voice stayed even, but the challenge was clear. Check it, now. Matthew fumbled with the phone, scrolling through the confirmation Sophie had shown. His shoulders slumped. I see it. We got this wrong." Ethan didn't blink. "Yeah, you did. And you owe her more than that. You humiliated her in front of everyone. Fix it publicly." It wasn't a request. It was about her honor, their bond, and he wasn't letting it slide. Sophie's eyes burned, tears slipping free as Ethan turned back to her. He didn't say much, just rested a hand on her shoulder, warm and solid. Then he spoke, quieter, just for her. "Mom would have hated this. She'd have said you're tougher than they think." The mention of her mom cracked something in Sophie. She saw her frail, but fierce, fighting cancer with a smile, telling her to keep going. Ethan had met her mom once, early in their relationship, and her strength had left a mark on him. "She'd be proud of you," he added, voice rough with memory. Sophie's tears fell faster, not from shame, but from the love tying her to her mom's memory, and to Ethan, stronger than the broken necklace in her grip. Matthew cleared his throat, voice shaky. "We'll make this right, Mr. Caldwell. I'll announce it, let everyone know we messed up." Ethan nodded once, sharp. "Good. She deserves that." Sophie swiped at her face, the anger still simmering beneath the warmth of her fiancé's words. She wasn't over it, the way they'd judged her, trashed her stuff, dismissed her pain. But with Ethan here, the fight felt less lonely. He wasn't just a name to leverage. He was her rock, the one who'd taught her to stand tall when people tried to knock her down. She thought back to Ethan's own battles. Venture capitalists calling him a fluke, too private, not flashy enough to be a mogul. He'd proved them wrong every time, not with noise, but with that steady, unshakable core. Now he was doing it for her, turning their doubt into dust without raising his voice. Sophie's chest loosened, the hurt easing under his quiet strength. "Thanks for coming," she whispered. He squeezed her shoulder. "Always, Soph. You're my family." The words hit deep, a lifeline she didn't know she needed. Matthew shuffled, glancing at the crowd. "We'll get her on the flight. No more issues." Ethan didn't soften. "Make sure of it." Sophie felt the shift, the power tipping back where it belonged. She wasn't just some woman they could push around. She was Ethan Caldwell's fiancé, and he'd made damn sure they knew it. But more than that, she was still herself. Stubborn, scrappy, and not backing down. His faith in her fueled her own, even as the sting of unfairness lingered. With him beside her, she could breathe again, ready for whatever came next. The air shifted again, as Christopher Lee, the regional director, stepped up. His suit was sharp, but his face was taut with unease. He approached Ethan and Sophie, hands clasped like he was bracing for impact. "Mr. Caldwell, I'm sorry," he said, voice low but clear. "This shouldn't have happened." Ethan didn't respond right away, just watched him, letting the moment sink in. Christopher turned to the crowd, raising his voice. "We got this wrong. Our staff made a mistake, and we're owning it." Sophie Bennett is cleared, her tickets valid. Heads turned, phones still up, but the murmurs softened. He looked at Sophie, softer now. "You're back on your flight, upgraded to first class. We're fixing this. Sophie exhaled, the tension in her chest easing slightly. Ethan nodded once. Good. And those policies? The ones that let this happen? Fix those too. Christopher swallowed hard. We will. I'm starting a review. How we handle passengers, how we judge them. This won't repeat. It wasn't just a promise to them, it was a crack in the system. Forced by the mess they'd made of her day, Sophie clutched the broken necklace. Its sharp edges a reminder of what they'd cost her, even if she was getting her seat back. Ethan rested a hand on her shoulder, steady as ever, and guided her toward the gate. Let's go, Soph. They boarded together, settling into the quiet of first class. The plane's hum muffled the outside world, giving them space to breathe. Sophie sank into her seat, the necklace pieces still in her grip, while Ethan sat beside her. He didn't push her to talk, just waited, like always. Finally, she spoke, voice small. I thought I was tough, but back there, I almost broke. Her eyes flicked to him, raw and searching. Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees, gaze soft but sure. Being tough isn't about not cracking, Soph. It's about getting back up after you do. You did that. She nodded, but the ache lingered. Memories of her mom, the humiliation, the fight she didn't ask for. Ethan watched her, then spoke again, quieter. I've been there. Early days building my company, they treated me like I didn't belong. Too private, too low-key. Not their idea of a billionaire. Sophie's lips twitched, a faint smile breaking through. You? They didn't see you coming? He chuckled, the sound warm. Nope. Took years of proving it. The same as you did today. They judged us by what they saw, not who we are. His words hit deep, linking their struggles, a thread of understanding she hadn't expected. Sophie looked down at the necklace, thumb tracing the broken edge. They didn't just judge me. They broke something I can't fix. Ethan's face softened, pain flickering in his eyes. Yeah, that part sucks. But you're still here, still you. That's what matters. She swallowed hard, the tears she'd held back threatening to spill. He was right. She'd stood her ground even when they tried to tear her apart. It wasn't just about the ticket, it was about her worth. Something Ethan had always seen, even when she doubted it. Outside, the story was spreading. Phones from the terminal had caught it all. Sophie's fight, Ethan's stand, Christopher's apology. Clips hit the internet fast. Hashtags trending. Justice for Sophie. SeaTac mess. People weren't just watching, they were angry. Angry at a system that targeted someone for how she looked, who she was with. Comments piled up. This is why we can't trust authority. She didn't deserve that. The pressure built, and SeaTac's PR team scrambled, promising changes to staff training and passenger treatment. Sophie's ordeal wasn't just hers. It was a spark, forcing a reckoning bigger than she'd imagined. She didn't know that yet, tucked in her seat beside Ethan. All she felt was the mix of relief and hurt, the weight of being seen but still scarred. You didn't have to come, she said, glancing at him. He shook his head. Yeah, I did. You're my family, Soph. I'd walk through worse than an airport for you. His voice was steady, a promise that didn't need flash, just truth. Sophie's chest warmed, the pain easing under his quiet loyalty. She thought of her mom, how she'd raised her to fight for what mattered no matter what. That's what Ethan was doing now, standing by her side. The plane's engines rumbled, ready for takeoff. Sophie leaned back, the necklace still in her hand. She felt recognized, vindicated even. But the cuts from the day ran deep. Ethan reached over, resting his hand on hers, not saying a word. It was enough. She wasn't alone in this, not anymore. And maybe, just maybe, she'd turned her pain into something bigger. Something her mom would have smiled at. With him beside her, she could believe it. The plane hummed as Sophie sat by the window, the broken pieces of her mom's necklace cradled in her hands. She turned to Ethan, voice soft, almost drowned by the engine's drone. Why are you always there when I need you? He looked at her, eyes warm but shadowed. Because you're my family, Soph. My future. The words hung heavy, truth carved from their shared commitment and love. Sophie's throat tightened. She'd always known he'd show up, but hearing it like that cracked open an ache she'd carried since her mom was gone. They didn't speak for a moment, letting her mom's memory settle in. Her mom, the woman who'd faced the end with grit and grace, who taught Sophie to fight through tears. "She'd have loved your fire today," Ethan said, a small smile breaking through. "That stubborn streak, all her." Sophie's fingers traced the necklace's jagged edges. "I want to write about this," she said, the idea sparking sudden and sure. "Turn it into a script? Make the pain mean more?" Ethan nodded, pride in his gaze. "Do it." She'd say, "That's your power, making beauty out of the rough stuff." The plane touched down in New York, wheels bumping the runway like a heartbeat starting over. Sophie stepped off, Ethan beside her, and the weight of SeaTac felt lighter. Not gone, but different. She wasn't the woman they doubted anymore. She was someone who'd fought, fallen and risen, with her fiancé's unshakable faith pulling her through. He glanced at her as they walked, a rare grin tugging his lips. "You made me proud, Soph." Her chest swelled, a mix of healing and hope she hadn't felt coming. She wasn't just his fiancé, she was her own force now, ready to shape her story. This wasn't about wealth, Ethan's or anyone's. It was about love that didn't bend, strength that didn't need to shout. Sophie gripped the necklace pieces, not as wounds, but as proof she could rebuild. With Ethan at her side, she saw it clear. The real fight wasn't against injustice, it was for what lasted after. And they'd won that together. Sophie and Ethan's story isn't just about a rough day at the airport. It's about how we treat people we don't get. It's a gut punch that someone's worth can still get trashed over a hoodie or a name. Maybe you agree, maybe you think she should have played nicer to avoid the mess. Either way, it's hard to argue against what Ethan brought. Love that doesn't flinch. That's the real strength. Not money, but a bond that holds fast. What do you think? Does this kind of unfairness hit too close to home? Or is it just how the world works? Thanks for sticking with this one. It means a lot. Share your thoughts below. Hit that like button if it hit you, and subscribe for more stories that dig deep. Catch you next time.